Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over an upcoming potential winter storm for much of the northern United States. I've been getting a lot of comments recently talking about this system, and they've been asking about this system, and it is a bit too far out to really say anything with certainty. Today we're not going to really be going over exactly what I think is going to happen. I'm going to be more of discussing what the models are showing, giving you a little taste of what I think will happen with this and what I think is most likely with this, but we're generally going to be going over what in the atmosphere would be conducive for this and what could go right or wrong with the system and what could change with the system. There's still so much that can still change with the forecast, so I'll definitely be updating you guys at least a few more times on this system because it is still 5 or 6 days out, and if you're wondering, this is the system from the 23rd through the 26th. So I'm going to be talking about it in today's video. Again, this is not a forecast, it's just a discussion, and my official forecast on the system won't be out until about 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 days out from when I'm uploading this, just because I want to get closer to the event before I make any official forecast on this system. So here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like. We'll go from west to east. Wind advisories over western California, as well as for parts of the interior mountainous regions of California, where you have some high wind warnings and some high wind watches for southern California and northern Utah. Some more wind advisories scattered throughout parts of the southwest, and then we have some winter weather advisories through some of the northern Rockies and then all the way down to the southern Rockies as well, with some winter storm warnings in effect in those pink shades for parts of Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, and into northern Colorado, with some more winter weather advisories scattered throughout parts of Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and into North Carolina and West Virginia, with some freeze warnings in effect for northern Florida, and just south of there you have some more frost advisories in that lighter blue. We also have some more winter weather advisories in effect for southwestern upstate New York and also for the northwestern part of the UP of Michigan. We also have some lake effect storm warnings for southwestern upstate New York and northwesternmost Pennsylvania. And then for northwestern upstate New York, we have some more winter storm watches. So it's definitely more of a scattered amount of watches and warnings currently, but it is overall generally a quiet day unless you live over the Rockies, where there is actually quite a bit of activity moving throughout that region. So let's start talking about what some of the models are showing, and we're going to start off with your GFS model, then we'll show you the Canadian model, and then we'll show you what the European model is showing, and I want to kind of break down what I think is the most likely option. So there's two main things that you have to pay attention to. We have that low pressure out through the western U.S., and then we have our high pressure up through into the northern plains. This is going to be very important, and also we have to pay attention to this because these three systems are going to be so super important for this system's development. And even though this low pressure is all the way on the other side of the United States, it still will have an impact on whether or not this high pressure will stay in place. This low pressure right here is going to that's off the coast of Maine, is going to move further to the east. It's going to curve up near into southeastern Canada, and it's going to stay over the northern Atlantic. If that system is booted out and it just moves up into Europe, then this high pressure will also just scoot away. It'll move further to the east, and you won't have anything that'll keep this low pressure from moving all the way up into Canada, and then it'll become a mostly rain event. If this low pressure can stick around, which some of the models yesterday were doing, where it just stays there, kind of sticks around because we are in a blocking pattern, then this high pressure can't move. It'll move further into southeastern Canada, stick right around here, and it won't move, which would allow a cold flow into the eastern U.S., and then this low pressure would kind of move into that area of colder air, and you would, of course, have some sort of snow situation with that. So there are a couple little factors that we do have to pay attention to. And again, even though you see this little system out here and you might say, wow, that looks really insignificant right now, it is going to have a huge player, it's going to be a huge player, and it's going to have a huge effect on what may happen. I've seen a lot of people just looking at these surface maps and then saying, well, the GFS is bringing snow here and not to these areas, and the Canadian is doing something else. That's not really what I'm going to look at in today's video. It's going to be how do these three systems play and interact interact, because that's what's going to ultimately determine whether or not you see snowfall, not exactly what this model run of the GFS is showing. So let's play through this. This would be by the 23rd. We're dealing with that system out through Colorado. We have snow developing further to the east, but again, that is not really the important thing here. It's that high pressure, which is by this point in Ontario and Quebec, Canada, right along that the province line there, and that's going to continue to move further to the east. Your low pressure by this point is out here east, basically due east of about Massachusetts, and it's staying right over there in the northern Atlantic. Again, that high pressure is in place, so we have a very cold flow through much of the eastern United States, below freezing for a lot of these areas, so that is going to allow some of that snowfall to develop. So this would be by Saturday, January 23rd. Here would be by Sunday, the 24th. We're dealing with that snow in the northern plains, but again, that is not the important thing. The important thing is that the GFS keeps this high pressure in place over here. Now, what I'm seeing with some of these models is that they want to bring this up into northern Michigan, northern Wisconsin, and I really have a tough time believing that, just because of how strong this high pressure is. It's a 1035 high pressure system, 1035 millibars, so that is a very strong high pressure system, and that's not something that you can just easily move out of the way with one weaker system. So you're going to need a little bit more of a stronger system to be able to push this out, and we're going to discuss that in just a moment. So here would be by the 24th. Here's by the 25th. And by this point, this high pressure has retreated. And again, I find this very hard to believe that the high pressure is going to retreat that far to the north that quickly just because of a 999 low pressure system. Again, that doesn't seem too likely. And what we've noticed with these systems is that they are overblown in the long range. They do moderate with time. If we're going to assume that this is going to be weaker, we can assume it's going to be 1003, 1004 millibars. That high pressure would still be there if it's a 1000 plus millibar low pressure, and if it is, which I'm assuming it will be because these models again do overdo these systems a lot, then that high pressure is still there, and you still have a cold flow into the eastern US. So even though some of these models are keeping this a lot warmer, you do have to take that with a grain of salt. And just because the models do first have it as rain or just have it as a mix for you doesn't mean that's actually how it's going to play out. There is still so much time for this to change. And then you see that arm of colder air and the arm of precipitation move further to the east by the 25th. And that continues to head further to the east. So here would be by that same time frame, and just to give you an idea, here's what the surface map looks like by this point. Here's what the upper air map looks like, and I want to zoom out here. So this is that low pressure I talked about at the beginning of today's video. It's up in the northern Atlantic. If this is a few hundred miles further westward, then this high pressure is still down into southern Canada, and you still have a cold Arctic flow into the eastern United States, and it's a lot more of a snow situation for these areas. And I also find it very interesting how it keeps the storm system up further into northern Wisconsin, northern Michigan. It's very hard to do that if you have such a strong high pressure system and you already have blocking further to the north. So where is that high pressure going to go? That's why I'm not really trusting what the GFS is showing right here. I think it'll be more of a southern track than what you're seeing right here. And just to end off this model run, you see that snow head further to the east, and you continue to see more of that. That system develops an offshore low pressure system by the 26th, and then that heads off further to the east. You see a bit of snow on the back end, but nothing of major significance after that system moves by. So here's what the Canadian model is showing. You see that system out into the plains and also into the Rockies. Your main system is still out near Nevada, but we are seeing a southerly flow of moisture moving into the plains, and that's going to actually set the stage for a bit of precipitation on the onset. This would be by the 23rd. In parts of Missouri, Kansas, into Nebraska are dealing with snow by this point, and then those two systems kind of merge together. They become a bigger system over the northern plains, according to this. And the Canadian model has even a stronger high pressure system, 1040, and then it has a 1009 low pressure system. So the Canadian model is saying that this high pressure is going to be strong enough, and if this low pressure system doesn't go under rapid development and doesn't rapidly strengthen, then this high pressure system really has no reason to move out of its place, and I wouldn't see why it would move out. The Canadian model still does move it out. and it does head it out further to the east, although it does have a lot more cold air in place than what you see what the GFS does. And then the Canadian model even brings up another low pressure system up to Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas area. Again, that is something too far out for us to really comment on. That's after the 26th, and that potentially could be your next blow of some wintry precipitation for parts of the Northeast and the Ohio Valley. So here's what the European model is showing. Your high pressure, you can't see it on the screen, but if you were to look at the surface map, it would be right around here. We have your first low pressure system all the way out here into the northern Atlantic off your screen, and then we have that system out here over the northern plains where you're dealing with that snow and rain mix. So this would be by the 25th. We're dealing with some of that snow out further into the northern plains, the upper Great Lakes, and that system continues to develop. It heads further to the east, and again, I really don't think that this system is going to be able to make a track that far to the north, especially with how negative the NAO is and how much blocking we have. It's very unlikely that you could see a low pressure move all the way into northern Michigan like what this model is showing, and you can see that system heads further to the east, further to the north. And again, I don't think that's too likely of a situation to occur, especially in the type of pattern that we're in. We usually don't see these systems kind of stay further to the north. We usually see them actually stay further to the south, and they're actually kind of suppressed further to the south. So it's quite unusual to see one of these systems make that to go that far to the north. And again, I think this system is going to end up with time translating further to the south, and I think that's going to mainly just be because these systems are overdoing how strong this system, the low pressure is, and if it's going to overdo how strong the low pressure is, that means that it has more of an opportunity to keep that high pressure in place. If that high pressure stays in place, then we have that cold flow, and it's a much snowier situation. So there is still that opportunity, and I would definitely, if you live in that area, don't be too upset just yet, because there is still definitely a good setup in place. You have that high pressure in place, you have that cold air in place. It's just exactly where does that low pressure time out, where does it go over, and where does it track, and also how strong is it, because all of those are going to be huge factors that we still haven't figured out, and we're still about 6 or 7 days out. There is still so much that can change with this. And then you see that system head out further to the east. It leaves some lingering snow showers on the back end. So here's what the European model is showing for snowfall. Don't really look at these exact totals, but look at more of the footprint of this storm. You can see that over much of the northern U.S., it brought up some snowfall for those areas from the Dakotas eastward pretty much. You're dealing with some sort of snowfall according to the European model. Here's what the GFS model is showing, keeping that heaviest snowfall up through the northern plains and the interior and northern part of New England, where you're looking at some of those heavier amounts of snowfall, and that would be the GFS. And then here's what the Canadian model is showing, and it's keeping that snow further to the south, but also it does bring those heaviest amounts still further to the north. And again, whether that high pressure stays in place or whether it retreats further to the north into northeastern Canada, that's going to be a huge player into this on whether the system just moves up into the Great Lakes, moves into southern Quebec, and kind of just stays as a mainly rain event for a lot of these regions, or whether you see the system kind of stay further to the south, stay as mainly a snow event for a lot of these regions. There is still a lot of time for this to change, and there is definitely no set narrative on what could happen just yet. There's still, again, so much that can happen, and I'll be covering this on my channel for quite a bit because we are still so far out from this, and I'll definitely be covering this, and as we get closer to this event, we'll have a lot more certainty on what exactly will happen. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.